Hello and welcome to Pride of Soul London Fan TV. Ali here, bringing you a brand new show, CPFC Chat. I'm going to be talking through a range of Crystal Palace issues. And there's been a lot of news, hasn't there, since that difficult night on Friday against Arsenal. And of course, that was a disappointing night in a lot of senses. Disappointing in the sense, really, that I felt like we should have got something out of it. But what I would say on it is, there were positives, and it was great to be back in the ground, great to be back at Selhurst Park. There was a fantastic atmosphere, wasn't there? I got video on the channel. Have a look at that as we came out with the banner and everything like that. Not so loud in the Arsenal end, despite winning. I described their atmosphere as what you'd imagine a 10 Downing Street party to be like in lockdown. But with Liz Truss in charge, not Boris Johnson. But anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to talk about a range of Crystal Palace issues this evening. I'm going to be talking about, and there's been a lot of chat about Palace since that game, even going into the ground on Friday night. There was news about Benteke, which we're going to come on to. I'm going to be asking you what your thoughts are. So let me know in the chat. Please let me know your thoughts in the chat. Good evening to Damo in the chat. Let me know your thoughts in the chat, what you think about some of the questions and issues that I'm going to discuss tonight. But I'm going to begin with Aaron Wambasaka. His name is continually linked with Crystal Palace. Every single week, his name continues to crop up. What do you think about that? Let me know in the chat. Aaron Wambasaka, would you want him back at Palace? Do you want Aaron Wambasaka back at Palace on loan? For me personally, I'm going to start with a question. I'm going to start looking at it like this. Do we need a right back? Well, some people say that they don't think we need a right back. Well, I absolutely think that we do need a right back. We absolutely do need a right back in my opinion, because if you think about it, if Joel Ward obviously is there, he's a stalwart of the club, but now on top of that, you've got Nathaniel Klein, who for me, Nathaniel Klein has been playing really, really well since the end of last season. Nathaniel Klein for me has been a very consistent performer since the end of last season. He did well in pre-season. I thought he was good on Friday night. He was efficient on Friday night in what he did. And then also other people will say, well, we've got Nathan Ferguson, but I don't think we can go into a season reliant on the fitness of Nathaniel Klein and Nathan Ferguson, given their injury track record. So for me, I absolutely do think we should go for a right back. Should that right back be Aaron Wambasaka? Let's get the negatives out the way. I know that he hasn't quite got the best positional sense at times. I know going forwards, he isn't always the best at times, which is kind of ironic, given the fact that he started out as a winger at Palace in the academy. We know that he actually only turned up into the first team training as an emergency right back, and bizarrely it went from there. But what I would say about Aaron Wambasaka, and for me, what I think that he would bring is, I think and this sounds a bit bizarre, but I think it'd bring the Jordan Ayew effect. And obviously, eventually we want Michael Olise back fit, because I think if Michael Olise's fit on Friday night, I think we get the goal that we need in the second half. But I think he'd bring the Jordan Ayew effect in that I think if Aaron Wambasaka, if he got high up the pitch, I wouldn't want Aaron Wambasaka high up the pitch, because we know he's a decent attacking fullback in the sense that he's going to play great balls or take on people. I want him there because he'd win the ball up high. And that's what Jordan Ayew does. He's relentless at winning the ball up high and helps with our high press. And I think Aaron Wambasaka would bring that same kind of relentlessness that Vieira likes down the right-hand side. And the other thing, what I'd say is, with Olise on the right-hand side, I think Wambasaka would be the perfect foil for him. It'd give Aaron Wambasaka that freedom to go and express himself. Olise that freedom to go and express himself, knowing that he's got Wambasaka behind him. And this is the one thing you can't take away from Wambasaka, is that he's one of the best tacklers in the league. So he'd be there backing Olise up. So for me personally, I think it would be a great relationship down the right-hand side, Wambasaka and Olise. So if we could get a good deal for Wambasaka, and it would be dependent on a good deal that works for the club financially on loan. I wouldn't be throwing loads of millions at a loan signing, but if it's a decent deal for the club, then I would very much be looking for this. And what we know about Steve Parish is that he absolutely loves to bring back former Palace players. And it was actually him who pushed for Wilfried Zaha to come back to the club. It's well sort of documented that summer that it was more Parish than Tony Pulis pushing for the signing of Wilfried Zaha, and obviously we see how that turned out. Now, I would say what I'd say on Wambasaka is, can we get him back to the player he was when he left Palace? Because what he kind of, probably needs is to be shown the same kind of love that Zaha was shown when he returned to the club. And what I'd say on Man United is the coaching of their players is not very good. You look at Harry Maguire, he's a different player for England than he is for Man United. So is there a possibility that we could get Wambasaka more to the player he was when he left Crystal Palace? For me, if the deal is good financially, I absolutely would be for the loan signing of Wambasaka. The rumour continues. I think it's one that might play out in the last few weeks of the window. Let me know in the chat what you think. Would you sign Aaron Wambasaka? Let me know in the chat and we can bring that into the discussion. Next sort of question that I'm going to raise that I want us to discuss tonight is Christian Benteke. Did we do the right thing in letting Christian Benteke leave the club? Obviously, the news filtered through as we were going into Cellar, so it's still kind of being digested. What I would say on it is I've been quite happy having Christian Benteke going into the season. I think he would have been a decent option going into the season. But at the same time, I can see why the club have let him go. It didn't ever quite work out for him, did it? He did get 15 league goals in his first season, but it was only really Big Sam Allardyce who got the best out of him. Maybe that's the frustrating thing as Benteke leaves us, is that we never really quite got the best out of him. We never quite played to his strengths. And that was definitely a frustration under Roy Hodgson, that we never quite played to his strengths. But I think even Benteke would admit that he needs to take responsibility as well. 35 goals in 162 appearances. Well, that's not, a great tally. It's about 1 in 4. So it never really quite worked out, obviously, the way that we wanted. But there's still, for me, a lingering doubts. I would have liked to have seen him have a run with Elise in the team, because Elise's got a great delivery. And then there's that thing where you eulogize about players after they leave. And I already started doing it in the second half against Arsenal, because all we really needed was someone to get on the end of something against Arsenal. But we didn't. No one did. And you kind of stood there thinking, well, what if Benteke was there? What if Benteke was in the box or getting on the end of something? But I think I can see really why the club did it. I think if the deal was financially viable for the club, with Benteke being post 30, it's clear that he was third choice for Vieira. So Benteke probably wasn't happy to sit there as third choice. He's behind Edouard and Mateta in the pecking order. And he went. And really the question is now, is what I want to ask you, and feel free to chat away and put your comments in the chat, is should we get a replacement and who? And I put this out on social media the other day, and some of the names mentioned was Diaz of Blackburn. Interesting shout. Diaz has got 35 goals in the Championship. Diaz got 22 goals in the Championship last season. So he would be an interesting option. Not heard his name linked to us, though. Emmanuel Dennis of Watford was another name that somebody suggested. I think a good shout again. We were linked with Emmanuel Dennis right at the beginning of the window, but haven't heard anything about Emmanuel Dennis really for a long time. Dolberg, who plays for Nice, is one that we do get linked with, because he used to play for Patrick Vieira. That's an interesting one. But again, not hearing anything concrete on that. And in fact, to be quite honest, we're not getting any concrete links to a striker at all. So are we even going to be in for one? Another name that I would put forward would be Armando Broja of Chelsea. Is that the Chelsea loan we need? Although he only yielded 9 goals for Southampton. Do we need more of a goal scorer? What I would say is, I don't think Vieira has found his man yet up front. I don't think he's found his man that he's wholly trusted and gone, this is the guy who's going to get me goals. And I think that was evident on Friday night, because I felt a little bit sorry for Edouard, because I felt like Edouard didn't do too badly. The first 20 to 25 minutes were quite difficult for a striker, in the sense that Arsenal dominated. And the chance that he did get with his head, I thought he did okay, pretty well with that. I thought he got a good save out of Ramsdale. But then he got pulled off early in the second half and didn't really get time on the pitch when space opened up, when Arsenal tired. And I understand why Vieira did what he did in bringing Mateta on and bringing a different kind of energy. But he just, if he really trusted in Edouard, if he really thought Edouard is the man who's going to get me goals, he doesn't take him off when we need a goal. So I don't think Vieira's quite got his man up front that he wants yet. We know that he wanted it in Nketiah. There were strong links with Nketiah last season. Then he started getting in the Arsenal team and he signed the contract. Be interesting with Gabriel Jesus there, whether that one crops up again at some point. But I know there was a few whispers today on social media that we're being linked to a wide player with international pedigree, but there's nothing concrete about Palace being linked with a striker. So it's an interesting one. Let me know in the comments below. Did we do the right thing in selling Benteke? Who should we get in to replace him? Who would you suggest as a replacement for Christian Benteke? Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions. Moving on to it, and I don't really want to move on to it, but Wilfried Zaha has been strongly linked with Chelsea. It's not going away, even though I wish they would, like every single Palace fan. Listen, there was nothing really new today. I know Fabrizio Romano did his article. There was nothing really new in that article. All it really said in that article was that Wilfried Zaha has been linked to Roma. We knew that. That's been the only concrete contact from a club to Palace. But then, I'll come to your comment in a moment, Henry. But then Wilfried Zaha, but then Roma went and got Paulo Dybala, and they seem to have moved on. Then in terms of what else we've said about what he said about Wilfried Zaha was that he just basically reiterated that there's rumours about Chelsea. And he basically estimated the price to be 20 to 25 million. So there was nothing actually new in Fabrizio Romano's article today that has me even more worried than I was. But what I would say on Wilfried Zaha, I am probably, even though in my gut, I think he will stay with us, and then I think he is going at the end of his contract, I just get the vibe he's going to give us one last season. He wants to go out with a bang. But what I would say is I am the most worried about him going since that summer when Arsenal was strongly linked with him. We know that he met with Unai Emery. We know that he was Arsenal's #1 target, but we priced them out because we wanted a high initial fee, and then they went for Pepe on installments. I'm the most worried since that summer because Zaha actually used to get linked to Dortmund when Thomas Tuchel was there. And I think as well, he would really suit Thomas Tuchel's system in the false nine. And it's a difficult one. Let me know in the comments below. I mean, do you think Chelsea would be the right move for Wilfried Zaha? I look at it on paper and you wouldn't begrudge him the move. It would be Champions League football. I think he'd be playing for a manager who clearly rates him. I don't want to see him in a Chelsea shirt. I don't want to see him cheered on by Chelsea fans. We saw the chant they came up with for Koulibaly. I mean, I just don't want him at Chelsea. I'd rather he went to Arsenal. But it is a good move for him on paper. And I think the other interesting thing is that Chelsea are linked with Aubameyang. So is Zaha on some sort of list? I kind of get the feeling, and this is all me just from inferences from the reports, that there might be something in it that he's on some sort of list at Chelsea, but is Aubameyang above him on that list? Are they trying to get Aubameyang? If they don't get Aubameyang, are they going to go to Wilf? So it's an interesting one. That it's really hard for me always on Wilfried Zaha. If anyone who watches my channel will know I've done a few videos on him, and one of my biggest gripes about it is that those people who peddle the myths and the narratives about Wilfried Zaha, one of the big one is, well, he's already had his chance at a big club at Man United. He never did. I did a video on it. If you look into the football side of things to Wilfried Zaha's time at Man United, not a salacious rumour that Zaha denied and actually said he'd never felt supported by Man United on that rumour. It's actually just more evidence of a club not looking after a young player. But he never got his chance at Man United. How do you get a chance at Man United at any club if you're not even afforded a start in the league? So that being thrown at Zaha and he ends his career without going to one of those big clubs, part of me would love him to go to a big club and really go and prove himself and just prove all those critics wrong. So it's a difficult one. At the same time, you'd be heartbroken to see him leave. And I'd love him to end his career at Palace. So it's a difficult one. Let me know in the chat. Would Chelsea be a good move for Wilfried Zaha? What do you think? I'm going to come back to Henry's comments. He says, I don't like Benteke leaving. Aside from it being very strange to find out the way to the match, it was strange, wasn't it? I don't feel like I've digested it. I was distracted going into the ground by a banner about a certain central midfielder who plays for Arsenal. It increases the pressure on Eduardo Mateta. Well, it does, doesn't it, Henry, unless we get a replacement. I think if the window slams shut and we haven't bought another striker, I think I will be negative about it. If we get another striker in, then I'd think, okay, fair enough. But it does put a lot of pressure on Eduardo Mateta. I like Mateta. I'm not fully sold on Mateta. I think he's more an impact player who comes in for a certain run of games and comes off the bench like he did the other night and brings a new kind of energy. I do really believe in Eduardo. I think there's still a striker in there. Any of my videos, I say this. I think he's got such quick feet in the box. I think he's someone who could score a lot of Premier League goals still. I feel like with Eze playing through the middle, there'll be more 1-2s and things like that to feed him into the box. I still really believe that Eduardo can do it, but I'm not convinced Vieira's got that same belief. And that's proven by the fact that he took Eduardo off the other night with about half an hour to go, and we're looking for a goal. If he really believes Eduardo's that man to bring the goals, he wouldn't be taking him off the pitch. So I'm not convinced Vieira actually has a striker, or has had a striker since he's been at Palace, that he's fully sold on. Ben365 says any move for Zaha would be good as long as it's worth it for us. It might be nice to see if someone else in the team can shine. Yeah, I think, Ben, I would say on that, be careful what you wish for. I don't think Palace fans are going to truly appreciate Zaha until he leaves. I kind of see, though, what you're saying with a year left on his contract. Should we be cashing in now? We have got we are the most prepared we've ever been. We've got Elise coming back from injury. We've got Eze. Ebioa looks absolutely brilliant. So we are the most prepared we've been for a number of years to cope with it. At the same time, it'd be a massive loss at this point. He got 14 goals for us last season. So take that out of the team. That's a big loss, as well as taking Conor Gallagher out of the team. I think it's a big loss. So I don't know. On that, I personally, I think you can't look at it any other way than it will be a blow if he leaves, but it might make financial sense. It might be, you look at it and say, well, the club's got no choice. He's out of contract in a year. We're being offered so I think we shouldn't accept anything less than 30 million, even though he's only got a year left on his contract, because Man United have a significant sell-on fee that it wouldn't really make it worthwhile, given the impact Zaha brings to our team. With Chelsea, could we do some exchanges? Conor Gallagher's name is going to be brought into that. Gallagher's going to be one we're going to watch over the next few weeks. Just about got off the bench. Hudson-Odoi is someone that we're linked with. So it's an interesting one. So it might make financial sense to do it with the year left on the contract, but there's nothing absolutely concrete at the moment on Wilfried Zaha. Until that happens, we just got to pray that he doesn't go. I personally, the thing that would disappoint me and make me most sad is I want to see Zaha on the left, Elise on the right, and Eze in the middle. I just think that would do unbelievable things, and I'd be sad if Zaha goes before we see that, before Elise gets back and fit. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Zaha is going to go? Should he go? Is it a good move for him to Chelsea? Let me know in the comments. Last thing that I'm going to discuss tonight, and I was hoping that I wouldn't need to discuss it, but it comes up again. Set pieces. It's not going away. Another goal conceded from a set piece. First goal of the season. 16 goals conceded from set pieces last season. The only team that were higher really were Everton with 19, but they've got Frank Lampard as manager, so that explains that. The thing that worries me about it is pre-season, obviously, we had this split squad. So obviously, most of the back four were on the tour, but Gahey, who's obviously part of the back four, was at home. So how have we really been able to work on our set pieces as a defensive unit when the whole back four weren't together for most of, at least half of pre-season? We've lost Kiate, who brought height, and you could even bring Benteke into that. We really lack height. Kiate was a big asset at defending set pieces. Are we even weaker than we were at defending set pieces than last season? And for me, ultimately, that's why we didn't get top 10 last season. I've heard it said that because we got distracted by the cup, that's why we didn't get top 10 last season. For me, there's absolutely bona fide we did not get top 10 because we conceded too many goals from set pieces or let too many silly late goals in. So for me, it's not been improved. So where do we, how do we improve this? What I would say, my thoughts on the goal that we conceded the other night was just the total lack of reaction. It was a great run by Zinchenko. Don't get me wrong. It was an absolutely fantastic run by Zinchenko. But we just sort of stood there. It was like we paused for 5 seconds and Arsenal carried on playing. And the thing for me is, and I'm a bit nervous saying this because they're a great partnership, and I love Anderson and I love Gahey, and in many ways they're the best centre-back partnership I've ever seen at Palace. I supported Palace the year we went into administration. I started my first season ticket at Palace was the first season we went into administration under Mark Goldberg. And I would say that, so I'm post Eric Young and post Chris Coleman. I would say Gahey and Anderson are probably, by some distance, maybe the best centre-back partnership I've ever seen at Palace. But I'm nervous saying this, but do we lack one of them being commanding enough? And Anderson rightly took loads of plaudits, even being compared to Ronald Koeman the other night for his performance against Arsenal. But is Anderson like a Rio Ferdinand, a player who sweeps up, is good on the ball, is great passing out from the back, is great at reading the game? Is he like a Rio Ferdinand who needs a Vidic alongside him, somebody really commanding? The same for Gahey. He's really good at sweeping up. He's got Mark Gahey. He's got a brilliant amount of pace and can sweep up the play. Do we need someone commanding alongside Mark Gahey like a Vidic? Is there just a slight imbalance in that partnership of Anderson and Gahey? Now, again, I say I absolutely love them as a pairing. I think last season, towards the end of last season, there were some brilliant defensive performances from us as a team. I think both of them are probably two of the best centre-backs I've ever seen at Palace, but it just lacks a bit of authority for me at the back, particularly in the air on set pieces at times. And is that in Vieira's thinking about bringing in Richards, about this toying with moving to the back three? Maybe he sees it a little bit as well. Let me know in the comments what you think about this set piece dilemma, because for me, if we don't sort it out again this season, then we won't finish top 10 again. It's that simple, because the amount of points that we threw away last season on our defending of set pieces, 16 goals conceded, means that we won't get it. That's the standard. There's so many teams vying for this top 10. You've got Newcastle throwing money at it. You know, Villa lost, I know, at the weekend, but they're throwing money at it. It'll be tough to break the top 10 again. I think we're very capable. We have to get the set pieces right. So that brings it to an end this week. We've chatted a lot on a lot of issues. Let me know in the comments below, as always, your thoughts. Are you for Wambasaka coming to the club on loan? For me, I definitely am, if we can get a viable deal. Should we bring in for a replacement for Benteke? I definitely think we should. Who should it be? Should we let Benteke go? Wilfried Zaha to Chelsea? Don't want to think about it. But is it a good move for him? Do you think it will happen? Hopefully not. And what are we going to do about the set pieces? As I said, I will be back. I will do a preview of the Liverpool game. As always, I'll be doing a preview of the Liverpool game with my team and my lineup for that one. So do tune in for that. Please comment in the comments below on anything that we've discussed tonight. And as always, if you've enjoyed tonight, please press the subscribe button. I hope to be back at a similar time next week for more CPFC chat. Thank you for tuning in. As always, press that subscribe button.